AI gets controversial real fast. Today we're not talking about writing essays or replacing creators. Today we are simply focusing on one thing. Which AI program builds the best roller coaster? I'm running ChatGPT, Google Gemini, and Microsoft CoPilot and asking them to create the ultimate roller coaster in Planet Coaster 2. The three of them will build their idea of the best possible coaster, side by side, element by element, from random themes to insane coaster models. Today we get the luxury of sitting back and judging them, answering the question, which AI coaster is the best? Hello everyone, welcome back to TH Designs. Today we're not doing a Wheel of Wonders video, we're not even doing a recreation. Today we are asking the question, what AI program creates the best roller coaster in Planet Coaster? Of course, there's been videos out there where AI has actually built a coaster in-game, and I thought to take it to a next step and put all of these different engines, these GPTs, against one another. Of course, there's going to be rules and constraints, so let's jump into that. So here we are in one of the programs that we will be testing, ChatGPT. I'm going to copy in this prompt that I had made, basically summarizes everything. We are introducing the challenge, of course. You are competing against other AI programs who designed the ultimate Planet Coaster 2 roller coaster. Follow these rules exactly. The rules that it must follow are such. The plot size that the coaster is limited to is 150 meters by 150 meters. It has a grid, as you can see, that talks about here, so that coordinations can be shared between me and the AI so that the coaster is built exactly as it envisions. It is very small for a big coaster. Because we are doing 3 separate coasters, I tried to make it, for my own sake, smaller. Rule number 2 is suggestions must be fully replicable in Planet Coaster 2. Of course, it's going to give me ideas that are probably not in the game, but they must be in one way or another. The big constraint is the maximum of 5 elements. That's not a lot. That's not really a lot at all. These are going to be almost micro coasters, probably just outside the threshold of micro coasters. That way we can critique the 3 of them next to each other within a reasonable video length. Rule number 4, of course, these should be real elements, but they can be made up if desired, which I really hope they don't, because that sounds like a pain in the butt. Rule number 5 is provide short transition suggestions for each element. Self-explanatory. I'm going to be doing a lot of improvisation when it comes to filling in the gaps. This is trying to eliminate that as much as possible. And of course, keep the responses concise and formatted exactly as requested. So let's jump over to the actual blueprint and we could talk about how we're going to build this step by step. Here is our blueprint. Of course, it looks like a lot, but don't worry, we'll zip through it. The gist is what we just talked about with the rules and constraints. Those are constants. These are variables that are specific to each AI program as they see fit to their specific coaster. Starting, of course, with coaster model. Maybe the most obvious one. Hopefully they don't all just go with the same model. That would be kind of boring. Then of course what you have here on the bottom is step by step every element as we go. I'm going to try and keep it nice and short and snippy. We are working with 3 different programs here and I'm sure they're going to make this hell for me. There's no way this actually goes smoothly. So I think the concept is relatively understood. So let's of course dive into coaster model. Let's figure out exactly what coaster type they are going to want to work with. What is their ideal monster coaster? Give me your ideal coaster model. Intamin Blitz Coaster. To the shock of absolutely nobody, ChatGPT has chosen the Intamin Blitz Coaster. As for CoPilot, let's see what it picks. A B&M launch. Okay, another launch coaster. I don't think that's surprising, but B&M being the pick is certainly interesting. Which model specifically is it referring to? Okay, so it's contradicting itself by saying Penguin Trek and Rapterra. Penguin Trek was a custom coaster model and Rapterra is a wing coaster, so that doesn't do us any good. I'm just gonna do myself a favor and give it the B&M over the shoulder restraints, like something you might see on the Incredible Hulk at Islands of Adventure in Florida. A little bit of a hiccup there, but yeah, thanks CoPilot. Gemini's turn, let's see what it picks. An Intamin Giga Coaster. Okay, so something like you might see on Millennium Force at Cedar Point. So Gemini is off to a bad start probably because a Giga Coaster 120 meters is not what you want. It knows it's in a 150 meter by 150 meter box. Fantastic. That's awesome. So I was expecting an Intamin Blitz all around. I only got it from ChatGPT. To summarize, we got a Blitz from ChatGPT, a B&M launch, a pretty standard B&M launch from CoPilot, it insisted. Google Gemini asking for an Intamin Giga Coaster, which is pretty crazy considering the constraints, but I don't think Gemini is gonna win this one. So that answers our next question of what type is it going to be. CoPilot and ChatGPT are in agreement that they think a launch coaster is the best type of coaster for this challenge. Gemini is different. It believes a lift coaster is the best, specifically a hydraulic lift. Let's go ahead and ask what height and speed. So upon asking this question, ChatGPT gave us a pretty straightforward, pretty incredible speed number of 73 miles per hour. That's some pretty hefty speed. especially for such a small plot of land. CoPilot gave us a very general answer, giving us between 55 and 60 miles per hour, only to give us, once I asked for specifics, 62 miles per hour, which wasn't even in that original threshold. CoPilot, you do you, man. Gemini, of course, we already knew the answer to with 120 meters. It already answered that kind of prematurely. I'm not super on my meters to foot conversions. Upon doing the conversion, it's way worse than I realized. 393 feet. Google Gemini is not just building a gigacoaster, it's bordering a strata coaster. It's almost 400 feet, which is unbelievable. Dude. Gemini is actively throwing this challenge. I don't even think Gemini's taking this seriously. CoPilot is hanging in there. ChatGPT seems by far the most promising to start. ChatGPT picked the Intamin Blitz coaster, which is the equivalent of the LSM Raid coaster, a fantastic coaster model. For now, I'm just going to place that there. CoPilot asked for a B&M launch coaster. After not giving very good specifics, I went ahead and picked the B&M sit down over the shoulder. Gemini, who is actively throwing in this challenge, asked for an Intamin Giga Coaster, which is the equivalent to the sit-down 4-seater. Let's find out where they want these stations and where they want the launches or lifts going. So after asking the three of them which coordinates they wanted for their station and for their lift, ChatGPT gave us F8 to J10, which was pretty easy. Then it asked for the launch to be F11 to J12. So it's actually going at an angle here, which is different than the other two, which is very interesting. And speaking of Gemini, don't mind that. Gemini, while making a fool of itself, was at least smart enough to tuck itself toward the edge because it realizes that it wants a 393-foot lift hill, which is unbelievable. The range that it asked for was B11, which is only one away from the station, so I had to create like this awkward snake thing. Then it asked for the lift to be done by E11. Do you see the problem there? The significant problem? 3 letters away? This thing is 393 feet, and it wanted that height to be right here. Dude, that would have been like an 80-degree lift. This is, by the way, the steepest that it allows me to go. I can't do anything else, otherwise I actually would have done that. CoPilot is off to a good start. A straight station starting from C3 to E3, and then the actual launch starting at F4 to F8. I guess it's also worth noting that ChatGPT, while being at an angle, the station is twice as long as the train. CoPilot and Gemini at least got that right, that the station doesn't need to be that long. At the moment, CoPilot and ChatGPT seem to be running away with it, and Gemini is just having a laugh. So it's time to get into the nitty gritty. It's time to actually do the first element for the 3 of these coasters. Give me your first element out of 5. Well, you goof. You already have one. You just did that. I know I said follow exactly what it says, but it's confused. You already have a launch. Pick an element. Intamin vertical loop. I like how it specifies the manufacturer of the coaster. Okay, it actually followed the rules though, and I appreciate that. 20 meters high, that's 65 feet. Okay, so ChatGPT asked for a vertical loop at G12. G12 is where that X is. Come on. What am I supposed to do there? Even using the transition details, there's not much I can do. Curve gently, 90-degree turn into a small camelback hill. I'll do that. I'll just do that. I don't know. I'm going to curve gently with a 90-degree camelback hill. By the way, this is 73 miles per hour. This thing's going to fly through this turn because I made ChatGPT's first element. So I kind of had to improvise because ChatGPT literally did me no favors. Look at this. This is the G-forces on this turn must be insane. It must be neck snapping. Let's see it take this element. That's rough. That's so aggressive. The loop is very forceful, but probably still within the realm of realistic, more or less. All right, on to the other ones. So CoPilot asked for a 148-foot top hat at G10. That's marked by the X there. This top hat is only 133. Not 148. I did 148 originally, and it does not make it. The math does not math. But it actually is a pretty neat element if we watch it take it. It's much better than the ChatGPT one. It's very slow at the top, but that's not bad. And then finally, we have to see how Gemini attacks this thing. Its lift is now at R11, so I have to let it know that. Let's see if Gemini starts taking this seriously. Okay, no, it doesn't. It absolutely does not. That does not happen after a 400-foot drop. Oh, the element height is 100 meters. 328-foot ejector airtime hill, by the way. F11 to J11. Okay, I don't think this coaster knows where it's at. It thinks we're at E11, I think. I don't know, this doesn't make sense. I'm gonna adjust it. Gemini, you are giving me an absolute headache. The apex of the lift is at R11. What do you mean? Yeah, I bet you did. Q11 to M11. You know you can break away from this one line, right? You were absolutely correct. Yep, yeah, I know. Why do I have to be the one to tell you that? No, I didn't ask for your second. All right, I'm about to throw Gemini through a brick wall. I thought Gemini was going to be the best, to be honest. Okay, so we're going to scratch that zero-G stall and pretend we didn't see it. I'm going to do it. I'm going to do an ejector airtime hill from Q11 to M11. I don't care what it says. This is Gemini's fault at this point. Okay, so technically, this is what it wants. The start of the airtime hill is at Q11, like it asked. The end is at M11, like it asked, while still being 320 plus feet in the air, coming off of a spiral drop that it did not ask for. I'm so done with Gemini, dude. I don't even want to see it test this, but I'll do it anyway. Sorry, buddy, this is gonna suck. It's not your fault, it's AI. It's the future, don't worry. Oh my goodness. Oh my god. It sounded like it sounds like a car accident. It sounds like a car wreck. Okay, you know, all of a sudden, ChatGPT is looking much better. Anyway, element 2. Give me your second element out of 5. Use the given format. Come on, ChatGPT. B&M Camelback Hill on an Intamin, by the way, an Intamin Blitz coaster. 14 meters is only like 46 feet or so that's pretty unreasonable. This is an ejector airtime hill, but I gotta do what it says. F9 was the requested spot. That's awkward. This is gonna kill riders. So there we go, there's our element. I really was hoping this episode would have better rides than this, but I guess I was really naive in saying that. So that's a fairly good speed. This is gonna be, you know what? Maybe that's not the worst thing in the world. It's definitely not a camelback, but it's not the worst ejector ever. It's not as bad as that thing over there. An Immelman is what CoPilot asked for. I like that. This is a good pick. I think CoPilot is kind of starting to take the lead on what might be the most realistic thus far. Okay, this element actually looks pretty good, and it should make it most likely. 105 feet, that's not too bad. You can see it clears the top hat there. That thing's flying over there. Let's see if it makes this Immelman. Yeah, okay. Not bad. Not bad, CoPilot. I'm pretty impressed. This thing. We're back. Yeah, let's see what Gemini has in store for us now. A Batwing, okay. Element height 45 meters. Okay, we're coming down to realistic territory. H4 is right here. Okay. In case you don't know what a Batwing is, it's a cutback element that looks as such. All right, there's the Batwing done. Don't mind this weird interaction with the track. Let's see how it takes it, right? The G-forces on this one are going to blow those other two away. This is going to be insane. Just how fast it takes this is just crazy. And then these lateral Gs, oh my goodness. Look at that thing fly. Oh my gosh. By the way, because I guess I need to prove it, it's at 1 friction multiplier. It really is flying that fast. Whatever. Element 3. Give me your third element, ChatGPT. B&M 0G roll. 16 meter 0G roll at E7. Exit with a gentle bank. Okay, not bad. 0G roll is super standard. E7 is the spot, which is right here. There's our 52-foot 0G roll done. Pretty standard stuff there. Coming through that totally not camelback airtime hill. Yeah, okay. That's pretty solid stuff. Okay. Maybe ChatGPT is crawling its way back to being realistic again. Like I've been saying, I feel like CoPilot's probably the one. Okay, it's a copycat. 0G roll. So it did say L8, which is right here. It's actually not too far off where we are coming off of the Immelman. Just gotta adjust this quick. All right, there's our 66-foot 0G roll with that little nice curve that it asked for at the end. Let's see how it takes it relative to speed. Coming into the 0G roll, it's actually pretty aggressive, but I like it. Okay, ChatGPT is slowly crawling its way back to realism, catching up to CoPilot, but CoPilot probably still holds the lead. Let's see what follows the Batwing on Gemini. All right, Gemini, we are back asking for your third element. High speed overbank turn. Yeah, that's what this model's all about. E8 to H16 sweeps diagonally across the plot towards the southeast corner. So the elements starts at E8, which is right there. So I guess it wanted us to go left on the Batwing. I like literally cannot remake this. I'll have it go over, and then we'll do a huge sweeping turn, I guess coming towards the southeast corner, which is over here like I talked about. All right, there's our overbank turn ending at that spot, starting where it asked. exiting straight towards that southeast corner, just like it asked. Of course, we gotta test it, but I can already tell you that this thing is going to fly through this. It is. I just cannot believe how much that thing is flying through these elements. Exiting that Batwing after killing all its riders through the overbank turn, which is just unbelievable. Anyway, element 4. Alright, ChatGPT, give me your 4th element out of 5. Intamin dive loop. So H5 is where we are building this, which is right there. Oh, 72 feet in the air is what it asked for. We are going to have to like sweep up and do a curve, which is fine. That comes out of this 0G roll pretty nicely. Alright, there's our 72-foot dive drop. It wants some S-bends as well to align it to the finale. So I'm going to do another turnaround similar to what we did over there. Not quite an S-bend, but I am going to help it out a little bit. Alright, there's our little S-bends and turnaround done. Pretty standard stuff. Probably will have to adjust that depending on what the 5th element and the final element will be. But we are jumping over to CoPilot. Again, not a bad element. Coming back to realism after that awkward camelback and vertical loop. CoPilot, give me your 4th element. As I spell 4th wrong. High-speed ground turn. A fast, low-to-the-ground sweeping turn that hugs the terrain. We were only 16 feet in height at N6. Exit by straightening into a short airtime hill to prepare for the final element. N6 is where it asked, which is right here, which aligns pretty nicely if we do one of those turns like it asked for. Alright, there we go. Pretty standard stuff. 16 feet in the air with this low turn. I don't even think we need to bank it all that much. What we have is probably sufficient. It did ask for an airtime hill going into the finale, so hopefully that's enough. It's kind of 2 elements technically, but this turn is hardly an element, so I'll allow it. Not bad. Moving on. Gemini, our favorite. Give me your 4th element. Please lean towards realism. Pretzel knot. Awesome. An element you don't find at all on the type of coaster that it picked. About 72 feet in the air to F14, which is actually behind it. A pretzel knot is extremely similar to Batwing. It's very commonly seen on flying coasters, which is why I said it doesn't typically work on these types of coasters, if not an inverted coaster. It's really what we just made over there, so it just wants a second one, because we had to modify that, because, alright. Fair enough. I don't know. I really don't know. And then it wants us to do it behind it. So I'm guessing we're going to fly to the right and then go to the left and then go that way towards the finale, I suppose. There's the pretzel not done. It looks a little strange, but it is way smaller than it probably needs to be. Let's see it fly through this at immaculate speeds that are completely unrealistic, but we're going to pretend as if it is somewhat realistic for the sake of the video. Gemini just lost its mind. I mean, just look at that thing fly. I cannot believe this thing. It goes through the first pretzel knot, essentially, through the overbank turn. Those G-forces, we have to look at those G-forces. Oh my god. Anyway, we are on the finale. ChatGPT is going first. A B&M fin arrow. Final airtime hill. Small punchy airtime hill provides a last burst of floaty airtime. I don't know what a fin arrow is. I don't know if that's a reference to anything. I don't recognize that. 10-meter airtime hill into the brake run. Alright, there's our 30-foot airtime hill, followed with this weird attempt at getting into the brake run. This coaster had a lot of gaps I needed to fill, but overall it doesn't look too bad. Let's see how it takes the final airtime hill, but I imagine it's totally fine. Okay, that's nice. It's not bad. Has a weird kind of burn there, but okay, you know what? That's actually not too bad. I actually overbanked it here. Okay, ChatGPT coaster is done. Of course, we're going to need to do the theming and everything, but the layout is done, and that is it. Fairly compact, kind of strange looking. Now it's time for CoPilot. Oh, CoPilot, oh, CoPilot. Give me your 5th element and your final one. Airtime finale. A compact camelback hill delivering strong ejector airtime before the train runs to the brake run. 12 meters in the air at P8. P8? What do you mean P8? You mean it's starting at P8? I guess you're technically right because we added that airtime hill that it asked for because we would have been ending about there. Okay, that's actually not as problematic as I thought it was going to be. Okay, so I'm going to give it one final airtime hill and then put it into the brake run. Alright, there we go. There's our final little airtime hill. It's 39 feet. Not too bad. Here it comes through with that first airtime hill. Yeah, that's going to make it. Ooh, it actually makes it pretty aggressively. But there we go. There's this layout done. I think CoPilot, if anything, suffers from being visually the least interesting. This moment here with the 0G roll into this sweeping turn, I like that a lot. It's very spread out. This is very compact with ChatGPT, and then Gemini is obviously a different beast of its own with just this monstrosity. But yeah, CoPilot's finished. Solid layout, not too bad. 5 elements done. Gemini, you are up next. Please, let's just end this, Gemini. I'm so sick of you. Gemini, please put me out of my misery by giving your 5th element. S curve, high G transition. Final rapid low to the ground sequence of quick, highly banked turns that generate a snap of G forces. Yes. 15 meters, F14 to C11. All right, there's our S bends and everything done. I know it only limited us to here, but I just added it some more. Not that it really matters. This coaster sucks either way. Let's test it and let's watch this thing fly through these S bends. This obviously isn't enough banking. Yeah, I mean, yeah, the brake run does nothing. Yes, it's a very short brake run. It stands absolutely no chance against this thing. I'm gonna max out the deceleration rate just to see what happens. Yeah, that was maxed out deceleration and it did nothing. Whatever, either way, the layouts are completely done. Gemini is finally done. Gemini is, yeah, it's Gemini. ChatGPT is probably the most interesting and cohesive layout. Granted, there was a lot of liberty and freedom taken with ChatGPT, but I guess kind of the same with the others, more or less. CoPilot didn't really ask for much. Either way, let's get to probably the most interesting question of all, which is what theme do each of these want? Starting off with ChatGPT, let's ask, what theme do you want the coaster to be? Thinking high-tech neon cyberpunk, a sleek futuristic aesthetic with glowing panels, metallic textures, and animated light strips. Okay, that's very fun. I like that a lot, yeah. So asking CoPilot, what theme do you want the coaster to be? Let's see what follows cyberpunk. For this layout and model, I themed the coaster as Cyber Serpent. All right, Cyber is back. Visual style, neon lighting, metallic track supports glowing scales. Riders are hacked into a digital serpent that launches at 62 miles per hour. Black track with glowing green and purple supports, train styled like serpent heads. Okay, so very similar to what ChatGPT wanted. Interesting, it seems a little bit more digital with the word hack, but either way. And then Gemini, what do you want to theme your monstrosity as? The Stellar Leviathan, a high-speed futuristic. Okay, so everything is futuristic. Okay, very creative, guys. Futuristic theme centered on deep-sea exploration and alien bioluminescence in an abyssal trench. Track is dark metallic blue, heavy use of neon and black light effects, mist and fog effects like it's the deep ocean. Okay, I think this may actually be... Gemini has had a horrible outing when it comes to making a coaster, but relative to the theme, this might be the most interesting one. It's very original, actually. It's not the same kind of futuristic as the others. Alright, so with those themes, our chart is completely filled out. You can see the mess of elements here on the bottom. Our themes being ChatGPT's cyberpunk pick, CoPilot's similar cyberpunk dragon question mark similar, Gemini future deep sea, which of course was the Leviathan idea that we just talked about. So I'm gonna get working on those themes, but we're gonna do a review once they're all done and recap over all of them and look at them, and we're gonna send the vote to you guys. I'm gonna give my thoughts, but I'm really curious about what your thoughts are on which one of these is the best. These are the layouts before we do any theming. I will see you when they're all done. I hope you enjoyed. The building of these guys has been very interesting, and 2 out of these 3 at least were very helpful in building this. One of these wanted to make it all a joke. Anyway, see you in a bit. Alright, we are back. A lot to look at here. Just like our Wheel of Wonders videos, this pretty stark jump to theming. The 3 coasters have been themed to what the AI asked for, which before we jump into these, I just want to preface that there's a lot of blueprints in here, some made by Frontier, some made by people in the workshop. I will try my best to include every single workshop code. I tried to make this a little bit less about my actual design and just fulfilling what the AI wanted, because really what this video is about is judging what AI wants in terms of its decision making. Does it look good? Like looking over at this cyberpunk theming that we saw with ChatGPT, 90% of this stuff is not mine. I just kind of tied it all together with little bits and pieces, and truthfully the amount of detail that's in some of these blueprints, I mean, just look at this skyscraper right here and all these different facades that you see. I mean, there's just such a interesting and impressive amount of detail in some of these blueprints, and that's why I want to give them a shout out, and I want to make sure it's clear that I don't want to take any credit for the actual scenery design. I just simply put it all together. Anyway, with all that said, I suppose we should jump into ChatGPT while we are here. Before we do that, I gotta make sure it's nighttime, because it's cyberpunk and that's how it's made to be looked at. So as you'll recall, ChatGPT asked us to do a cyberpunk theme, a futuristic style train with a bunch of lights in everywhere. It was pretty broad in general in that sense. The name of the ride is Neon Overdrive, again picked by ChatGPT. The train lights up, which actually looks really cool, and really it just flies through all this garbage, all these different advertisements, all of these lights, all these different facades. You can see the My GPU does not really like this coaster. Looking at the coaster flying through, it looks very cool. With the scenery done, you can see this iffy layout is kind of masked a bit. A lot of flying through rings and everything, flying through different buildings and roads and alleyways and over rooftops, all that fun stuff. Lots of garbage, lots of steam everywhere, because while it does aesthetically look good, Cyberpunk inherently is rather poor. All in all though, I will of course do the POV with the finalized scenery all done. The station itself is themed as a train. I don't know, it just made sense to me. Again, I'll try and attach all the workshop codes for all these builds. Really, more or less, it was the same, like 6 or 7. Haha. It's blueprints over and over. So there won't be that many codes to even search for, but I think ChatGPT has a pretty good installation here, and I think it's pretty competitive with some of the other two. Really, just CoPilot. It probably has the best theming of the three, but let's jump over to the next one before we start to compare them. Next, of course, we have Gemini, which is this monster coaster that has not taken itself seriously whatsoever, but the theme itself was this deep sea, kind of futuristic in a sense of deep sea exploration, which was a very different take. And there's a lot of different rock work, a lot of different blueprints. It's almost too much, but it does kind of, it's such a big footprint. Almost all of this is Frontiers, so I won't have to attach any work codes for this, but again, just trying to satisfy what Gemini was looking for. At the scale of the POV, it's much more manageable, and truthfully, as you'll see in the POV, this thing's flying at like 300 miles an hour, so you can't even appreciate all the different scenery anyway. But really, it's just a bunch of different rock work, a bunch of different animals. Kraken's here somewhere, yep, buried in the rocks. Lots of submarines, lots of high-tech exploration stuff. Actually, the layout's pretty fine. It's really the 400-foot coaster. Gemini's entry is done, and it is certainly an interesting one. And that brings us to our last one, which is CoPilot, which was maybe the most unique theme. So it's technically the same kind of cyberpunky futuristic theming that you see on the other two, which is very interesting, but I guess not surprising that the three of them are kind of along those lines. CoPilot went along the lines of a hacker, and kind of this idea of a serpent, where'd the train go? This serpent, which you can kind of see a little bit here. I tried to decorate the train as CoPilot asks, which like with scales and a serpent tail and all that fun stuff. But it's a serpent flying in and out of hacker software and stuff. I don't know, I'm not the most techie person, but it's really like the Matrix, more or less. There's this big tunnel before the launch where it's just numbers crunching everywhere, which this is literally pulled from the Matrix, and I just copied it. And then it flies up into all these rings and all these different TV screens which show those numbers to kind of, I don't know. I didn't want to put this whole coaster indoors. We have some continuation of some of the blueprints we saw over there, but there are more or less the same. This dragon is also a blueprint, but that's really the only one we used. Everything else is custom made. And really, it's just because I feel like we had to get a dragon somewhere, because it was really adamant that we had a dragon. for some reason. But really the main part of this, I guess, is this big showroom, this big show building. And if we fly in here, it is all a bunch of zeros and ones that light up green, that the coaster flies in and out of the zeros. Bunch of zeros and ones, that's how computers communicate, and ironically, more or less is how the AI communicates to you. Flies out of there, past all these computer screens once again, into a computer screen which is cracked open. And then it flies back through this scanner, which I guess is supposed to be like the transition into real life from the computer. I don't know. I rarely get to mess around with the dark indoors like that with the global illumination, so that's always fun. So all in all, with our outro, I would say this is relatively successful in kind of getting an idea on how ChatGPT, CoPilot, and Gemini attack the idea of making a coaster. And I think it's a showcase that AI is a awesome tool, but that's really all it is just a tool. It can't really replace human creativity. It can certainly spark it, but I think there's a lack of cohesiveness with a lot of these builds beyond just the scenery, looking strictly at the layouts, because the sceneries are much more subjective. I'm much more interested in the objectivity that you see in the layout and strictly what the AI picked. When you look at a lot of these layouts, there's a lot of loss of momentum, a lot of awkward moments with placement of different elements, and like I said, a lack of cohesion. Those are my thoughts. I probably would lean towards CoPilot's layout, I suppose, but it's not really about me. I'm curious what you guys think. I want to hear your thoughts in the comments down below on which of these coasters is your favorite, beyond just the scenery, although the scenery certainly does play a part because the AI did pick that. But what are your thoughts on the layout? What are your thoughts on the coaster model selected? Because I can't believe that ChatGPT is the only one that picked the Intamin Blitz model. We have a B&M launch coaster, an Intamin Blitz, and a Intamin Giga Coaster, which are three very different models that I did not anticipate to be selected. So do let me know your thoughts in the comments below. We are going to jump to the final POVs of the coasters, and I hope you enjoyed this video.